So, there was a sequel to the classic Phineas and Ferb movie Across the Second Dimension. Not as a movie per se, but an episode of Phineas and Ferb Season 4. As you may remember, Season 4 was filled with special episodes of all sorts, from Act Your Age to Star Wars and Marvel and everything in between. 22 minutes, 44 minutes, and even longer, these stories went where the show really couldn't go in any regular episode. But perhaps the most forgotten of these was the time they revisited the story of Across the Second Dimension from the characters in the Second Dimension's perspective. Since a feature-length sequel was out of the question for the time being, since, well, the main characters of the series don't remember the movie happens.
Yeah, we all know the song, but I'm not exactly sure how.
Disney greenlit a single 22-minute episode to continue the story, which also made the most sense production-wise. And what did they name it? Tales from the Resistance, Back to the Second Dimension. This makes me think that they wanted to make this its own series, subtitled Tales from the Resistance, especially when you see how this episode ends. But I also think that clunky title is partly why no one remembers this episode, especially since it didn't become a mini-series. But nonetheless, this episode didn't even premiere on the Disney Channel, instead first debuting on the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars DVD. So, with that introduction out of the way, let's take a look at this unique piece of Phineas and Ferb and see if it holds up as a true sequel to Across the Second Dimension, or if there was a reason it was forgotten. The first thing we're greeted with when watching this episode is none other than the classic theme song, which isn't unheard of for special episodes, but it does make me wonder if greenlit for more episodes if they would have redone the theme song for this miniseries. It really doesn't make sense with Candace and Phineas and Ferb's relationship being completely different in the Second Dimension though. But no matter, the episode truly begins with a portal-style opening, indicating that we're going back to the Second Dimension, as a disembodied voice, played by Allison Janney, begins to narrate a recap of the events of the movie for anyone who might have missed it. There's also a California native joke for those who live there, the staple of Phineas and Ferb at this point.
Is lost.
But after the mild-mannered intro, the story truly begins with, oh, okay, yep, that is the family photo in full HD resolution. Seriously, if you make this video full HD, this is the actual resolution of the photo in the episode. Some 10 out of 10 post-production zoom work, if you ask me. Anyways, this story starts with Candace 2 months after the end of the movie. As the main Second Dimension character with an arc from the movie, it makes sense that this new story would revolve around her and trying to accomplish what she set out to do at the end of the movie, pursue new interests after a lifetime of having one goal. I like that it's not a regression of her character, but instead an arc that forces her to confront her past as she struggles to not go looking for trouble and understand a carefree lifestyle. Ironically, Buford has a similar issue.
I'd rather be breaking rocks for the state.
Right outside, Phineas, Ferb, Buford, and Baljeet are also trying to figure out summer fun. Easier said than done for Buford and Baljeet, but Phineas and Ferb are getting the hang of it since they have a platyboard to play ball with. Still though, Lawrence is back home and walks in right as the kids stumble onto his old hidden sporting gear in the yard, and explains to the kids that sports used to be a thing. So, Phineas and Ferb are gonna figure out sports. Before we move on, A, I love the little details like Lawrence hiding old things, likely because he knew they'd become antiques, and B, the outfits of the characters are interesting. I like the idea of this transition between dictatorship and normality that this episode is going for. Phineas and Ferb still clearly had the buzz cut, but their hair has started to grow back. The sky still has traces of purple, but has turned much more blue, and the background still retained the Second Dimension architecture, but with all of the doof text scrubbed. It's a bold choice for the episode, and I personally think it works really well for continuing the story while still retaining the fact that this is its own dimension. In the meantime, Alka is rebuilding, and Monogram and Carl ask Candace where she left the keys, while Monogram encourages her to cheer up and enjoy life. Then we get the episode's first song, simply titled Sports.
Sports is fun in the summer sun, all over town. Touchdown!
Low-key, this is a bop, with some really fun visual gags, but I refuse to believe that this amount of children learned to ride bikes in one afternoon well enough to multitask while riding for this game. After some more encouragement from Isabella to get in on the fun and try some ice cream and maybe finally go out with Jeremy Johnson, Candace's fears are vindicated when a large metal ant attacks the kids in the park. There's a fun fight scene that embraces some of the style from Across the Second Dimension's action. However, other cyborg animals, including Pinky the Chihuahua Borg and Peter the Panda Borg, capture Perry amid the chaos for unknown reasons. Of course, Candace is all aboard the conspiracy train that Doof was behind this, but Monogram assures her he's in prison with his choo-choo, though all the Alka agents converted to cyborgs by Doof hadn't yet been recovered.
How many did you lose?
Carl, hand me that roster. Let's see, including Agent P.
26, sir.
26.
So Phineas and Ferb convince Candace they should go rescue Perry by tracking his chip, since they did break her out of prison that one time, and Candace goes to interrogate Doof on her own. Now, normally you wouldn't notice good sound design because it's usually so good it just sounds completely natural, but they did not use the correct sound effect for this entrance animation. That's a gate opening and 2 sliding doors, not haunted Ducky Momo creeping around the house.
You hear a floorboard creak.
Here's what it should sound like. But now it's time for the main attraction. Evil Doof is back, and he's basically just completely content with life because he has his choo-choo now. As she confronts Doof, Candace starts speaking Shakespeare.
Don't play smart with me, villain. You're behind the attack at the park.
And while largely clueless, Doof does reveal that there is another Doofenshmirtz who could be behind all this.
There is, however, another Doofenshmirtz.
Vanessa, I knew
No,
it!
no, not Vanessa. She's just in high school and she doesn't show any aptitude for evil. As a parent, I'm really disappointed.
This is in reference to the deleted scene from the film where Vanessa approaches Doof about her frustration with his evil ways. But it's not Vanessa, it's Charlene, who Candace and the Resistance apparently never investigated or knew about during Doof's entire time as dictator, because they're divorced. Moving from a dark, dank jail cell to a dark, dank alleyway, Phineas and the gang's mission to rescue Perry begins. And again, we get some references to the film in the background, with the Doof Obey statue in the dumpster, and a partially deflated balloonie, which was only ever seen in yet another deleted scene. I have a mad appreciation for the respect this episode pays the deleted scenes, and it gets even better later on. The fight with the cyborg agents slowly begins as they're taken out one by one, then the full assault begins. There's a brief confrontation between Pinky and Isabella during the fight, and sadly, Pinky doesn't seem to recognize Isabella. But the mission overall is a bona fide success, and it's back to Resistance HQ. Meanwhile, Candace properly interrogates Doof, where we get further insight into Doof's very personal relationship with his choo-choo.
Just park your caboose in that chair.
Choo-choo is not a caboose. It's an engine.
But he goes on to mention that basically Charlene is still around and lives in a penthouse, but the only way to get in is through an identification scrutinizer that only works for Doofenshmirtz. And so Candace plans to pay Charlene a visit, bringing evil Doof with her. At this point, the episode is over halfway done, and I really like how it starts simple, establishes a conspiracy, dives deeper, and has set up this mystery of Charlene, a character who doesn't get nearly enough screen time in the main show. It's a fun way to give this episode some unique flair and expand the world beyond just what we saw in the movie, where evil Doof's marriage and child went completely unmentioned. Now we're back to Resistance HQ for everyone to regroup, and in this opening shot, it finally hit me that the Resistance lair in the movie under Isabella's house was just Pinky the Chihuahua's lair. It's just now slowly being restored. I love the details and world building. Ferb is missing from the group, but it's glossed over quickly as Candace leads Phineas and Perry to Charlene's with Doof in tow.
Charlene's no longer married to Doofenshmirtz penthouse.
That one gets me every time. One of my favorite jingles in the whole show. Plus, it's just neat that her name is included in the jingle instead of past times when a jingle has been related to her.
Doofenshmirtz's ex-wife sports sedan. Doofenshmirtz's ex-wife's house in a hill somewhere. Charlene's no longer married to Doofenshmirtz penthouse.
The identity scrutinizer is incredibly thorough, inspecting Doof, and then everyone enters. Then we get our first scene with second dimension Charlene and Vanessa. That's right, this is Vanessa from the deleted scene, once again complaining about not being able to go on a date with Tony Marzullo.
Dad, did you outlaw Tony Marzullo? If you keep banishing every boy who shows an interest in me, I'll never have a social life. Tony Marzullo asked me out to the movies. Can I go?
Didn't your father banish him?
Charlene seems quite disinterested in her plight, and Vanessa receives permission to date him from a cyborg rat.
There's your answer.
Side note, I love how Charlene is dressed exactly the same as her first dimension self. In some behind-the-scenes pictures, it looks like at one point she was going to have a new design, but with the laid-back, sarcastic villain vibe she has in this episode, it's hilarious that she's in her original outfit. After Charlene's introduction, the gang makes their move and enters Charlene's lair, but she's actually super chill about it.
Oh, how sweet. Do come in, and thank you for returning my husband.
Husband? I thought you two were divorced.
It was all a ruse, honey.
That's right, they were never actually divorced, despite the signage saying otherwise. They then proceed into what is above and away the most memorable part of the episode, a Broadway-style musical number called All the Convoluted Reasons We Pretend to Be Divorced.
We told everyone around us we had split.
Yes, we were through. So if they came to haul me off, they wouldn't get her too.
There's that, and then there's there's also tax advantages, of course.
All the convoluted reasons we pretend to be divorced.
It's absolutely wonderful. If you've never checked out the episode, at least go watch this song. It's the only song Allison Janney gets to sing in the show, and it's a duet with Dan Povenmire. Plus, the lyrics are insanely clever. I also love that it revisits some of the movie's locations and has so many different outfits, including Doof's original outfit from the movie.
We spend so little time together, conversations never forced. All the convoluted reasons we pretend to be divorced.
But the gist is, by faking a divorce, Charlene would go undetected if Doof ever got deposed and be able to break him out of jail. I love everything about this. And then Charlene briefly explains her evil plan to get him back in perhaps the second funniest scene in the episode.
But why would you send the ants to the picnic? You had to know we'd come after you.
Of course. And I also knew you would use Hines to get in the building, bringing my husband back to me and getting you here so I could get the drop on you.
A lot of convoluted reasons there, too.
It's then revealed that Ferb was missing because he had been captured and turned into a boy board. But then why was Phineas so chill about Ferb being missing earlier? You'll see. So all the cyborgs send Candace, Phineas, and Perry to prison, and Doof and Charlene properly reunite. Charlene suggests taking over the tri-state area, but then this happens.
I don't really want to be an evil dictator anymore. I've got everything I need right here. My choo-choo, my family, this lovely penthouse, my freedom, and the... Choo-choo! Backstory, reforming, evil, returning. I'm back, baby!
So yeah, Doof is evil again, but we only got like 4 minutes left in the episode to wrap this story up. Candace, Phineas, and Perry are in prison for about 5 seconds until Ferb comes to break them out, revealing that Ferb being missing and turned into a cyborg was all a ruse by Phineas and Ferb that they didn't let Candace in on, to make Charlene feel safe knowing that the Platyborg and Candace, the leader of the resistance, were captured, while the rest of the Phineas and Ferb crew led the frontal attack on the building, which Candace didn't know about. Okay, yeah, convoluted is definitely the buzzword this episode. So, Buford, Baljeet, Isabella, and the Firestorm girls climb the penthouse in the rewired mechanical ant, and the fight ensues. There's even a dedicated Terry the Turtle moment for fans of the Across the Second Dimension video game. Baljeet then proceeds to explain that in order to win, they need to get magnetic deprogramming chips near every animal agent's head, conveniently hidden in the Alcafadors that we've all come to know and love. As they pass out the hats, Candace returns to the fight, disarming Charlene and causing evil Doof to cower. Isabella and Pinky reunite once again as Pinky is the first agent cured, and slowly but surely, all the animal agents are cured while Candace and Charlene continue to fight. As the fight nears its end, Charlene is defeated with the last agent being turned good, and with no army left to help her, defeated by unconventional furniture.
No, my manicure!
But then she gets up again! Charlene tries to convince Hines to put up a fight, the agents are on the Resistance's side, and just as everything is spiraling out of control, Vanessa returns to stop things. She pulls her parents aside, and it seems like she's about to be the voice of reason, until she tells them to run, providing them with a convenient escape out the window, and a hovercar driven by Tony Marzullo. That's right, the one character mentioned in the deleted scene from the movie is a huge plot point here.
Hey, Mr. and Mrs. D.
Hey, didn't I banish you?
Yeah, honey, you did, but nobody saw it.
I love it. If I had a nickel for every time Vanessa bailed her dad out of a situation using a hovercar, I would have 2 nickels.
Step away from the evil scientist.
Vanessa, I am so proud of you. You are evil.
I'm not evil. Just get in the car before they find out this is only a hairdryer.
This is Tony's only appearance in the entire series, first dimension or second. An often overlooked detail here about the escape is that Peter the Panda was never given an Alka hat during the fight, and makes a hasty escape with the rest of them, presumably to do more evil deeds in the future and become a proper rival to Perry the Platyborg. Then we get a simple and yet incredibly confusing ending. Candace starts her closing speech with,
Academy graduates.
but the sign reads, "Welcome back, Alka agents," and there's 6 mics on the podium implying that news crews are here. Is this a press conference? A welcome back for the agents? A graduation ceremony? There's tons of hot air balloons in the background, which makes me think like this is a big event, but no one else is there but the animals. Again, convoluted. Candace encourages the Alka agents that they'll surely defeat Doof when he inevitably comes back, and then officially steps down as leader of the Resistance, surprising monogram. She promptly leaves to go meet Jeremy in the park, also doing pull-ups like she was at the beginning of the episode, and we end on this sweet moment.
17, 18. Hey.
Hey yourself.
And that's the episode. Outside of what I've mentioned already, there's a lot of good here. The art direction, world building, and character choices are great, as is Charlene as the new villain. There's a love and care to detail for every aspect of the original movie, with things like everyone calling Baljeet Dr. Baljeet fitting in so well. And Candace's whole arc is great. She essentially plays right into Charlene's trap, leading to the entire Doofenshmirtz family escaping, which helps her to realize that maybe she should just keep her nose out of resistance business for a good while and give herself some time to grow up. It's a really interesting place for her character to go, and it makes perfect sense that she wouldn't have completely accepted freedom right after the movie ended. Where I think this episode lost a lot of people was with how convoluted the plot is. Well, everything is, starting with that convoluted title. Pulling off a conspiracy spy narrative in 22 minutes is not easy, and it's clear to see why. Most of the twists here simply serve to move the plot forward, needing more exposition than their reveals are worth. Additionally, the action scenes are less of set pieces and more just brief brawls. With at least 3 separate ones here, none of them make a real impact, and they're all too short to really get invested in. There's so much going on, and while I think every idea presented here was good to great, it's the execution that was off. You don't really feel the stakes as much as you did in the movie, and I think that's because another tri-state area takeover just isn't feasible at any point in the narrative. And there's even that missing connection spark Phineas and Ferb's big idea usually has with the main plot. Outside of the sports song, sports and fun doesn't help them in any way in the third act. Not the equipment, or anything. The premise of the boys' day is just never mentioned in the second half of the episode, which isn't necessarily bad, but is weird when literally everything in the movie preceding it was setup and payoff. The cherry on top of all of this was the ending. It felt inconclusive, clearly setting up further Second Dimension episodes and rushing a weird graduation press conference event to wrap up the loose ends. If we had gotten more episodes in the Second Dimension, maybe this would be more fondly remembered. But as it stands, it just undoes the perfect ending of Across the Second Dimension. And for what? As of now, nothing. But I'm sure the Phineas and Ferb team had ideas for where to go with this story arc, and it's disappointing none of it was realized. What do you think of the episode? Did you watch it on TV when it premiered, or see it on the Star Wars DVD as soon as it came out, rushing out to the store to buy it like my fiance? Did you even know that it existed? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments, Dimension Hoppers. Special thanks to my patrons as always for your support, and if you like this, you'll definitely want to see this video where I put Across the Second Dimension and Candace Against the Universe in a death match to see which is better. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back in Dimension 1.